This is how Yu Yu Hakusho starts. Yusuke Urameshi, the no-good delinquent everyone's scared of, just threw himself in front of a car to save a kid he barely knew. He didn't even hesitate. And nobody, not even the spirit world, saw it coming. So the spirit world offers him a deal to come back to life, and Yusuke refuses.
Everyone's gonna be much happier now that I'm erased.
Yeah. Yusuke believed so deeply in what the world told him about himself that being dead felt like doing everyone a favor. And it takes watching his own funeral as a ghost to crack that open. And it's that gap of the self the world hands you and the self you actually are that Yu Yu Hakusho examines over and over and over for 112 episodes. Serialized in December 1990 in Shonen Jump, Yu Yu Hakusho ran for 4 years and 175 chapters. Created by Yoshihiro Togashi, it got picked up by Studio Pierrot for the anime that would go on to make millions of kids want to shoot spirit guns. It's about Yusuke's journey after he comes back to life in his newly appointed role as spirit detective. And it's a classic shonen through and through. It has the tournaments, it has the energy blast, it has the moody side character. But as the series progresses, something strange starts to happen. The seemingly simple monster of the week story starts to give way to some profound questions. And it all starts with who Yusuke Urameshi is, or more specifically, who he's been told he is. Let's look at the funeral scene. In episode 1, Yusuke is totally bought into the idea that he's a good-for-nothing punk. He's not pining to prove anyone wrong about his true self. He's comfortable in that delinquent label. It helps him understand the world around him too. And then the funeral. His childhood friend Keiko and his mother breaking down. His school rival sobbing in despair. His school principal tearing up over his lost potential. All of the people closest to him are falling apart. And so Yusuke observes that his self-perception might have been off his whole life. The anime adds this line at the end of episode 1 that's not in the manga that sums it up perfectly. Take a look.
Have you ever not known about something that seemed obvious to everybody else?
That happens to us all, I think.
This is the start of his long journey of self-discovery. Because if he's not a delinquent, then who is he? And when you start to look at the show with this thesis in mind, it becomes obvious that Yu Yu Hakusho is obsessed with this idea of identity. It's everywhere. Specifically, imposed identities and how different people manage them. Enter Team Urameshi, Hiei, Kurama, and Kuwabara. Hiei was handed an identity as an abomination at birth and formed himself around his rejection, cold and distant and kinda evil, and he spends the series slowly freeing himself from that cage. He's not magically warm and fuzzy at the end of the show, but he grows to allow himself to be a caring and loyal ally to the team. Kurama finds himself trapped in 2 worlds after escaping captures a demon fox bandit and isekaiing himself into a human baby, only to gradually become more human. The show lets you wonder for a while if it's really 2 people in there or 1, but it gets blurry pretty quickly. He is both the loving son Shuichi Minamino and the ruthless bandit Yoko Kurama. That's his new identity, not one or the other. And Kuwabara, similar to Yusuke, is pegged quickly as the idiot thug. But the show goes out of its way to quickly reveal just how much of a softie he is. He's a cat lover and a deep romantic, and it's played as a gag most of the time, but underneath the joke is something the series repeatedly comes back to. Kuwabara is the only main character that's not really at war with himself. In other words, his identity isn't a reaction to anything. In a way, he's the show's North Star. So you end up with 4 main characters defined by the same question at different angles. Absorbed, rejected, merged, unfazed, or some mix of those. The point is Yu Yu Hakusho is using these 4 characters to run the same experiment with different variables. And once you see that, a lesson starts to emerge. That identity is something to treat as an ongoing experience and not as something to solve. And like any good story, Yu Yu Hakusho gives us a few cautionary tales to drive that point home. Maybe none more iconic than Mr. Orange Juice Over Ice himself, Toguro. Toguro, behind the insane muscles, is a man marked by grief. A former martial arts teacher turned terrifying demon after his students were killed by one. That decision to become an all-powerful demon is Toguro running away from his grief. But maybe more importantly, it's Toguro locking himself into an identity permanently to do so. And it almost looks like strength. He's imposing and self-possessed, but if you look at what the story does with him, he engineers the whole dark tournament for a worthy challenger to finally put him to rest. Toguro is, in truth, tormented by the identity he has created for himself. And then you have Sensui, who shows us the same warning from the other direction. If Toguro showed us how certainty can become a prison, Sensui shows us how brittle that certainty can also be. He was the perfect spirits detective who became disillusioned with humanity through the chapter Black Files. It was too much for him, so he developed a dissociative personality disorder, one personality for each compartmentalized piece of trauma. literally a split identity, built to handle the discomfort of not knowing who he is if he isn't a spirit detective. Which brings us back to where we started with our spirit detective, Yusuke. Except by the end of the show, that title doesn't really fit him either. He finds out he's part demon, so he doesn't cleanly belong to the human world, or the spirit world, or the demon world. And so the story forces him to sit with himself without the certainty to keep him comfortable. Identity is a project never finished. Delinquent, spirit detective, demon king, even fighter isn't enough for him, and by the end of the series, you see him give it all up. Ironic that it was made by a man handed the label of great mangaka, with all the work and expectations that come with that. Yu Yu Hakusho ended abruptly. Togashi walked away and came back with what many consider the best shonen of all time, Hunter x Hunter. But as of this recording, it's unfinished, on hiatus because of health issues. And that just might be the most on-theme thing he could have done. You see, most shonen stories end with the hero becoming number one, the king, the leader of the village. Yu Yu Hakusho ends with a boy on a beach. Togashi's 112-episode masterpiece doesn't give us a map to success, it gives us a mirror. And then it quietly asks us a question. Not, who are you, but what if there's no such thing as finding out? As always, thanks for watching.